Hi guys.
Hello.
Hey everyone, how you guys
Hello.
doing?
Good,
Good.
good, good. You're all here. I mean, nice to see you again, guys. I mean, I just kind of finished my talk and just run away here to another stream to talk to you guys. So yeah, thanks all for joining, guys. And I will be so I prepared some of the questions, and so I will be like reading them on my iPhone. It doesn't mean that I'm actually using Facebook, so don't worry about that, right? So I'm with you guys. And especially thank you, Jason. I guess it's quite too early at your location, right? So thanks for joining.
Happy to join. I made the tea pretty strong, so good to go.
Cool, cool. Okay, so I guess we are good to start. So actually, the idea. I mean, I invited you guys because you. I guess you kind of you're staying on the edge, right, between the technology and kind of sustainability. Probably not all of you, because Bruno is more the kind of working with helping developers to grow their career, but it actually like all related topics. And when we spoke with Bruno, he also mentioned quite an interesting idea. He talked about the developing sustainable career of developers. So I guess the sustainability is really the broad topic nowadays. So I'm pretty sure all of you will have something to share and to provide some of the comments. So actually, like I prepared some of the questions, and ideally, if you can all give your thoughts and your kind of comments, but if you don't have anything to add, that's fine, right? It doesn't mean that everyone should like say something, right? But ideally, have some. I want to have some kind of live conversation with you guys. Okay. Sounds good?
Sounds
Okay,
good.
good.
That's nice.
Okay, so let's start from the first kind of question. So, I mean, of course, I would say if kind of you're interested in sustainability and saving nature and planet, you're kind of self-motivated to do something, right? But for the majority, I guess, of the developers, what are the benefits to be involved in such kind of initiatives and projects? Can you speak on that?
I'd be happy to touch on that. My journey as a software developer, developing my skills at Dell, one of the things I noticed was that I went home at the end of the week kind of happy, not necessarily because I cared specifically about the product I was working on all that much. Its job was to make money for the company, right? Not for me. Um, but just because my employer generally gave me challenges. As an engineer, I was required to solve things that nobody else had solved. And so there was a sense of accomplishment in doing that. The motivation for participating in, for example, wildlife research, bringing practical programming code into that field, is just an extension of that. And in fact, it's a more rewarding one because the challenges you're looking at are very open ended, and yet they're solvable. And it really takes an engineering mindset to solve some of these scalability challenges in the application of high tech to wildlife research, for example. And it really, my journey has been that it very much builds on smaller software problem solving skills and accomplishments and just grows and extends them from there.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you, Jason. Do you want to
Yeah,
add
if I,
anything,
if,
guys? Yeah, go on,
yeah,
Tom.
uh, I think I don't come from a development background, as I alluded to yesterday in my keynote. But I think that Corona gave everybody, whether you're a developer, whether you're a designer, business developer, a moment of pause and to reflect on what we're all here to be doing. What can we be contributing? So I think when you don't have that hustle bustle, that kind of rat race 9 to 5 commutes, and everybody was forced to work from home or learn from home, that they gave a little bit more time to kind of reflect a little bit more thoughtfully and consciously about what should we be doing here, especially when we're facing this kind of pandemic, this scary virus that was killing people all around the world, and nobody was untouched. It kind of adds this new dimension about purpose and what we can all be doing right now as thoughtful developers. And I think that we should have a belief. We should have some sort of um, goal in mind about what we're doing. Are we just kind of replicating the same status quo, or are we actually part of that change machine?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean the
Yeah,
pandemics, I mean, changed a lot, and I guess for lots of people, they are change their probably priorities, right? Change their kind of values to some extent, which I guess made quite a burst to some of the innovation. I at least I hope that, right? um, anyone
yeah,
else want to
yeah.
comment,
I'd
guys?
like to add. I'd like to add to this that the pandemic acts as a catalyst for digital transformation. We wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have this remote conference systems, this software that enables us to communicate. And we see this every day in our jobs. Previously, most of us would have to commute every day to go to the office, but now most of us work remotely. So this is some kind of digital transformation. Instead of commuting and polluting the environment by using our cars, for example, we all work from home and indirectly help to reduce carbon emissions. There is a whole, new field and a lot of possibilities for us as software engineers to digitally transform many industries that haven't been using technology for so many years. Now, most of these industries are ready to listen. They have their attention. Uh, what they can do to leverage technology and transform the way they're working, and this way can be some way that reduces carbon emissions and makes things more efficient. And we are here, and we can. It's a challenging period for all of us, and we can do many exciting things in this field.
Yeah, no,
Right.
absolutely. Thank you, Yanis.
It's interesting that what Johan is just talking about, right? That we because of COVID, some companies kind of jumped 25 years in the future, right? Because they were 25 years back, and in 1 week, 1 month, right? They kind of joined the remote revolution, all of that, and I think this is an excellent opportunity because as Jason was talking about, we all work on usually, right, the usual jobs that we work on, projects for companies and to get more developers to use some more tools and things like that. But in reality, there are so many more interesting projects to do, right? And I think that what the pandemic has done is that a lot of industries that, of course, everyone uses software, right? Everyone uses some kind of software, but a lot of industries that were using software in a very backwards way, right? Just because they didn't have options, right? Now they're having to be advancing and using more advanced stuff, and that's an opportunity for all of us, right? Because we can choose very interesting, very advanced projects. They're actually are meaningful for us, right? And I think that each one of us have different ideas, but there's so many, grab data on a form and save in a database, things that you want to do, right? There's a lot more interesting things that we want to do, and I think that uh, you know projects like nature or health projects, projects that actually change people's lives, bring us a huge opportunity for us to do something that really matters. You know, not only for others, right, but also for us. We have something that connects deeply in what we want to do and what impact we want to do. So I think it's an awesome. Actually, for me, software development is already an awesome opportunity, but this moment right now, especially because of the digital transformation that's going on, I think that's even more interesting.
No, absolutely, and I guess I also mentioned it during my talk is that you know if ideally you should have win-win scenario, right? When something that you are doing, it brings the benefit for you personally and also for probably for human beings and or for the planet, but also it should really bring the benefits for you. And this is important because otherwise you're thinking, okay, I'm doing something important, but still kind of as one of the guys mentioned to me, it prevents my career from growth. And this is very dangerous, like thought, because it shouldn't. Instead, it should like accelerate that, right? Cool. Good.
Oh yeah, this.
Thank you very
This
much
whole,
for.
the best way for us to accelerate our career is to do very, very complex, interesting projects that we kind of fall into and we love doing it, right? So,
I
if
agree.
if you think that those interesting projects are gonna actually hold back your career, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
While
Okay.
working
Cool.
while
Cool,
working
guys.
at
So
Dell.
another question, I guess. I mean, it is the common question from lots of people actually. I mean, whether do you think that fellow kind of developers can really change something on big scale, with regard to sustainability goals, or like stop climate crisis or stop pandemics, for example. So does kind of small things matters? Because lots of people think, oh, okay, what can I do as one kind of individual, right? So what can you say?
I would say
Um,
you can be happier. So one of the things, there's not a this idea that a single developer is going to turn around climate change or save an entire species. Theoretically possible, but we work on teams in these environments, and in solving wildlife problems, we'll take small wins and their incremental improvement. But part of it can also be simply being happy with making an incremental improvement in an important area, or even better yet, making a discovery. We had a conversation at work yesterday at Wild Me about what discoveries in these 6 million photographs are we sitting on. We're really curious about our data, and we look at this volume of data and we think that we're not even curious enough. What are the relationships between these different animals that we don't understand, some of whom appear to be solitary but maybe moving in groups? It's just hard for us to see that with the human eye. So what does the data tell? So there's this opportunity to, even with small wins, even with little projects, to make real discoveries and to generate knowledge that no one else has had before about the natural world.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah, I'd love to riff on that too. Not just the natural world, but the today's city, as well as like we're working with a group, Sensing Clues, which were in the national wildlife refugee parks in Africa, using machine learning to detect different types of sound that maybe help the poaching issue. We're repurposing the exact same technology in the city to detect other types of sounds, like boring sounds, like maybe car horns and scooters, but it starts to give new profiles, new insights. And I think that what's wonderful about the way that developers think these days is that they can repurpose things so quickly, so easily, and then start really scaling at a much faster pace than any of these kind of older industries like architecture, urban planning, and city planning, and all those where I come from. And what these developers can also do is not just share those insights and data that Jason is talking about, but also like to teach these dinosaurs how to be agile, how to do Scrum, and that's a complete game changer for these ancient industries that are using 20th century tools to solve 21st century problems. And I think that's what's always cool about working with developers is that once the team is in their groove, things can get done really quickly and efficiently, and it's a nice, healthy, kind of robust thing where you're constantly creating value super quickly and demonstrating value to the stakeholders. And I think that's another aspect to the developers is, of course, we can talk about the data and the technical stuff, but also as a culture. What does agile mean for city planning? What does Scrum mean for policymakers? That's a completely different thing, and developers know how to do that. They're well trained to tackle those things.
Cool. I agree.
Yeah, I'd like to add that the first step that we can take as software developers is first to get informed and start informing others. This conference is an excellent opportunity to educate everyone on software and sustainability. So far, when developing new systems, new projects, we have been examining different criteria as to how we implement our systems. We talk about reliability, scalability, and so on, but we never talk about sustainability. So this is some new thing that we need to consider when
New,
holding
new,
our discussions.
new quality attributes, right, to our systems.
Yeah, so first step is to educate ourselves and educate everyone around us. And when taking decisions, always think carefully: what is the impact to the environment? And design our systems accordingly. This is the first step, and all the others will come one after the other.
Agree.
And I think this whole notion that we can change, things by ourselves, right? First of all, the only thing that has changed the world, right, is a small group of committed individuals, right? That has been exactly what changes things. But the reality is that software development is a collaborative effort, right? We are never working together. We're working for lots of people. We are working with sales teams, marketing teams, customers. We're working with, even if we're in a small team, there's like one or two developers still working for a lot of other people around us. And so I think that we can take that into this same thing, because we're gonna be part of a larger team, right? And I think that's the best thing that we can do is actually look for opportunities where we can add, right? A lot of developers ask me, oh, how do I start? How do I don't want to start my own project, or I don't know how to start my own project, even on open source project. And I always say, don't start your own project, right? Because that's very hard. Go look for a group of people that are already doing something and join them, right? And go participate and add a little bit of value. And then, because once the little bit that you add to a group, it multiplies, right? And then if you're ready in the future to start your own thing, right? Actually, my daughter volunteers, right, during COVID. She volunteers to make food for people in the streets, right? And so she was giving a presentation on an event this past weekend, and someone asked her, why are you helping people on the other side of the city? Why are you not helping someone in your place, in your neighborhood? And she said, well, I looked for a project that existed, right? So I could go and I could add a little bit, because I don't know how to start my own project, right? And so a lot of times we kind of afraid of, oh, I can't do it something alone, right? So join someone, right? Join people that already do things, right? Join a nonprofit organization, and then and add your knowledge to what you're doing and improve a little bit what they're doing, and that's going to make a difference for sure.
No, I agree. I mean, I can add from my side, right? I mean, I'm also quite new to in this area. I mean, especially comparing to some of you guys, right? But I mean, I started also like a small, right? I mean, I started to talk about that with my like friends, right? And now I brought this kind of topic to the conference, which is also kind of small step, right? But it has a big impact, right? Because you actually, hopefully you trigger much more, much more many like people, right? And around you. So it's actually like you're doing the small step, but then it goes, it triggers, more steps going forward. Right? Okay, cool. So
Yeah, the
another
one, one,
question I
the one
had
thing I like
is,
to say is that when you
yeah.
move, the world moves with you, right? So, when you do the first step, then other people kind of join you. So that's good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm quite happy of even now of the results we've got, but I guess we have much more ahead of us. Um, so another question I had. So what skills and knowledge do you need to have in order to be involved in such kind of projects and initiatives? And is it a high entry level? And this is also like something that some of the guys I talked to, they asked me, right? So is it kind of, you need to learn a lot of new stuff kind of to join these, initiatives or projects around sustainability or stuff like that? So is it really the kind of high entry level? And probably what tools and technologies do you need to know actually, or learn, that will be most useful and demanding in this area?
Well, yesterday during my keynote, I was giving top 10 kind of tips and suggestions how to be kind of to enter this market or become a kind of high impact developer. And the points some of those points that were my personal favorites were basically just go guerrilla. Just govern yourself by apologies. Never ask for permission because no one's going to give you permission. So you just do stuff by just having the courage and the kind of heart to try it, and it's okay to fail. Just keep doing it on your doorstep, rooftop, whatever. And also, yeah, make sure that you're surrounding yourself by other types of people. Don't surround yourself, don't be inside your comfort zone hanging out with another Java developer, but hang out with some a designer or business developer or somebody that has experience in these kinds of fields of future mobility, smart energy, whatever you're interested in. But just have the courage just to try to do some rapid experimentation. Don't think about it too long. And when you have those people that are as convinced as you are, and you're constantly trying stuff out, you're going to be learning a crap load, and you can't go to university for that. You can't get paid to do that. You got to do that yourself. And I think I think the others can talk about more of the kind of other technical skills that you might need to enter these markets, but I definitely want to just talk about how easy it is to enter this sustainability world.
Don't be intimidated by experts. So I work with a lot of professors. We have professors do sabbaticals with us. We have professors tell us it'll never work. One of my core strategies, I kid you not, I've founded WildMe on this strategy, is to approach a very complex problem, talk to the experts, have the experts tell me I don't know what I'm doing, and tell them, okay, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I keep doing it until they look at me and they go, that's nuts. Stop, let me help you, because you're going to do it all wrong. And it was a strategy all along. I just needed to convince them that I was going to work hard enough to be worth their effort, and then they will join me in a solution. The thing about software engineers is, in this modern world, if you approach a reasonable project, the answer is always going to be, yes, we need your help. There is the sort of, there's not an infinite amount of man months we need of software. Like if 20 software developers showed up tomorrow, I wouldn't necessarily know what to do with them, because I'm still often stuck in today's projects and trying to run today's schedule. But over time, what I find is there are groups of software developers who keep showing up and keep asking. And 2 of those are currently on my staff. Sometimes they were like, do you need help right now? No. Okay, well, I don't really have time right now, but can we have lunch together? Just little things like that. And I have now hired 2 of those people to be full-time professionals, because I knew that they were going to show up and stick around and that they were motivated. So even if you approach a project and say, I have all these software development skills, they don't have to be machine learning. They don't have to be advanced software development. If you're good at basic user interfaces, a lot of projects need your help desperately. If you're good at basic data management, clean schemas in a database, so many science projects need your help. And then from there, even if they say no the first time, just start doing something. Prove to them that, well, I'm going to be here anyways, so we might as well get along and work together. And they will. It'll come along.
Nice. No, very, very nice kind of suggestion, Jason. I haven't thought about that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that in terms of skills, right? I think that every every technology can be applied to those problems, right? Especially this whole discussion of data, right? So Jason was talking about data a few minutes ago, right? So the whole discussion about data, but not only that, right? The whole the whole idea of having distributed software or even mobile, right? So everyone, all kinds of projects need some kind of mobile things, right? IoT, right? There's a lot of projects that need IoT. So I think that instead of you thinking about what new skill can I acquire to be part of those things, of course you can always acquire new skills, right? But instead of you only thinking about what new skills I have to acquire, how about what skill that I already have that could be applied to one of those things, right? If I'm doing ERP and boring corporate software for all my life, that's still valid, right? Because all of those companies still need to handle people and employees and this kind of thing. So I mean, there is a little bit for everyone, right? So I think that if you whatever skills that you have today, if you can apply those skills, that'd be great. But even if you don't, know anything about that, right? Just start talking about it. It's already a start, right? As Jason said, you can have go have lunch with your friends, and then maybe a discussion will come up with something that you can think about, right? And that's exactly what you're doing, right, Oleg? Right? You've been talking to people, right? And so just by talking to people, now we have this awesome panel here discussing this topic, and lots of people watching it, and they might be inspired. And because you're talking to people, Devoxx Ukraine now has this focus, right? So that's and then the more you get involved, the more you're going to see the opportunities.
Nice, nice. Thank you,
Uh,
Bruno.
Yeah, I'd like to add my personal experience on this. One of my main focus is how to reduce the complexity of software solutions and also reduce the cost of these solutions when running on cloud. And at some point, I realized that by reducing the cost of software running on the cloud, we're actually reducing the resources, the CPU, the memory, the network traffic that these applications consume. Uh, by looking at it from a different perspective, we're essentially talking about the same problem, building sustainable software that is friendlier to the environment, that consumes less energy. Uh, so we already have many of these skills in place, and we use them on a daily basis, but we just hadn't looked from a different perspective, the perspective of building sustainable software.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, and also, I mean, this is interesting point is that, you started from kind of one angle, right? You started from the cost kind of reduction, but then you realize that it actually also has relationship to the, more sustainable kind of codes or green codes, if you like, or green computing, right? It's so lots of things that I noticed also is they are all related kind of. You can touch one thing, but it also has an effect on the other things. And by the way, to what Tom kind of mentioned about that 10 tips, I actually included that in my also presentation today, and also refer it to you, Tom. And that's kind of gorilla point was the most funny one for me, But in reality, it makes sense because if you will be like hesitating and asking permissions for anything, then you're not gonna move anyway, right? Because people they better kind of say no to you to be on the safe side, right? They say, "Oh no, 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 let's no, please don't use that." But so it's better to try and then apologize, right? So it's yeah, make good advice.
And
I'm
and that's
sorry, I
that's an
didn't
interesting. Uh,
learn so much time, and then seeing is always believing. So
Yeah, and that's an interesting way to actually include those things because we're talking a lot about here about how you can do that. You can maybe go out and do something, but actually a lot of things you can do inside, right, in your company, in your job right now, right? So if you're able to make an effort to reduce your costs on cloud, right, I'm sure your company gonna love that you're doing this, right? And you're doing something, right? If you and a lot of companies they want to show to the world that they're thinking about sustainability, that they are
Yeah,
thinking about the planet. So if you start an effort inside your company, right? Actually, I think Oleg, I think you should tell a little bit about your experience because that's what you did, right? Inside your company, you start this
yeah.
initiative a little bit. So once you start something inside your company, right, you might be surprised that your company going to say, "Man, that's awesome! I'm glad there's someone actually doing something here," right? So and if you can combine that with reducing cloud costs, what can be better than that, right?
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, I can tell kind of about my experience, and just kind of recently, the some of the kind of guys from my company they reached out to me saying, "Oh, I mean, we have an idea to run the hackathon about the green codes and green computing, and to try to as Ioannis was basically talking about like." To try to kind of calculate our kind of footprint, right? Or try to reduce that for our own products, even kind of internal products, and to show that we can actually do something about that. So I mean, and again, they reached out to me because they know that I'm kind of involved in this kind of stuff, right? I mean, the other example some time ago, they also kind of, the managers for my company, they also reached out to me saying, okay, I mean, we know that you are trying to build the community. So why don't you build the technical community inside the company to drive some of these initiatives? And it really makes sense, right? I mean, you will be basically paid by your company. Of course, it's probably not the kind of direct, additional like payments, right, as you have with the clients, with the external clients. But still, I mean, they will be paying for your kind of efforts, which is also quite a good thing, right? I mean, I have another like question at the end about this kind of area of profitability or earning some money, but it's kind of it is good starts, right? Okay, so let's probably move on. I have two more questions. So
So
another
before you
question
ask
is,
the next question, Oleg, I'm here on Rocket. So if you guys are watching us on Rocket, say hello in the chat, right? We are all feeling alone here because you don't say hello in the chat. So come on, say hello to us in the chat if you're there on Rocket. Actually, by the way, awesome platform that you guys are using. So if you're there on Rocket, say hello in the chat and ask your questions too, right? So we want to hear from you because it's great that we're discussing all these things. But what's the difficulty that you have, that you are watching us here, that you have on actually being more sustainable in your job? Tell us in the chat, and so we can help you out too.
no, absolutely. This is, by the way, the good comment because I asked during my session, I didn't have enough time, and I said, guys, we're gonna continue this topic on our panel discussion. So come there and ask your questions. And I don't have the rockets in front of me, by the way, but Bruno will read the question from the chat. Bruno's, if you ask them in the chat. So please don't hesitate to ask. I mean, the guys will be happy to answer your questions. I mean. Okay, while you're thinking about your questions, so I have another one. So imagine I'm a developer who wants to work on something that really matters. What would be your advices to me, right? What are the first steps for me to find my purpose? And I specifically, make it quite open. So it's not about environmental projects. It's about working on something that really matters and basically finding my purpose. So what should I start from? I mean, I know that Tom gave his like 10 tips, but probably some of the other guys or Tom also, you can probably add something to that.
So my journey has not been one of I was born for wildlife research. I was born to run a nonprofit. I was born to code. Nobody showed up. No inner voice popped in my head and said, "Oh, you're going to do this. This is what you were meant to do." My advice: look at two things. One, what are you curious about? Do you like orcas? As a 6-year-old, did you like orcas? Go with that. Just that little personal joy or little personal curiosity is enough, quite literally, to change your life if you keep following it. If you don't have that, just jump. Just find something, look around. This organization says they need a software developer to help a little bit. I'll do that. Do it for a couple of months. Maybe you don't like it, find something else. But don't be afraid to leap, even if you're uncertain as to whether you're going to be interested. Because sometimes we just have to start opening doors until we find the one that's the right door.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense, Jason. Thank you for your tip. Anyone else, guys?
I think it was interesting to kind of like listen to most of your audience is probably working in a company, and so I think Bruno and others were just mentioning about what does it take to kind of have a vision and have take leadership and own that that idea, that concept. And I think it's really important to want to really own it, to really kind of like not just kind of just be interested in it, but really commit yourself to it. Because if you're kind of lukewarm about it, it just won't happen and it won't be a success. But if you're completely passionate about it, you can inspire other people to join it, and together, I think that you can actually start doing some really purposeful, meaningful projects when you have that vision, that commitment, and that kind of that kind of ownership. I think we all need more ownership, and everybody kind of passes the buck these days. I think it's important that we all own something ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, commitment is important, because if you just have, even if I realize it's myself as well. I mean, if you have some good idea and you throw to people, right? don't you know don't expect that they will be as motivated as you, right? And start to kind of produce some more stuff, right? No, I mean, you should really like try to drive that, and hopefully at some point the people will join you and also like share your ideas. But it's people never gonna be so motivated as you with your idea, because this is your idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love what Jason said about if you're and a kid, you like orcas, right? So because it connected deeply with me, Jason, because when I was a kid, there's one animal book, and I loved the toucan, right? So I would draw the toucan, everything, and so today I actually have a couple of toucans that live here in my land, right? So I follow them. So almost every day I try to find where they are, and I follow where they are. I take pictures and all that. So it's nice that we connect back. And I had never made that connection, right? Until you just mentioned that. And I think that when you find something that we like, that we are interested, right? That we can think deeper in it. It's awesome, right? Because it really helps us because our purpose, guys, our life's purpose is not something that we decide, oh, I wanted that to be my life purpose. It's something that you build in your life, right, for many, many, many years, right? And so that's why we don't say, oh, you're gonna define your purpose, right? We usually say we're gonna find your purpose, right? Because it's something that is there in you. So look at those things. Look at things that you have this long span of interest in your life, right? Things that you've been doing similarly in different ways, right? And try to find that in the next thing that you're going to do, right? Because there is one saying that says the way you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So so look at the things you already do today, and try to find in those things the motivation, the reasons for you to do things for others, right? I think that's a great way. And I can do a little bit of commercial here, because the next talk, right? That's gonna be my next talk. I'm gonna talk about finding your purpose, right? So that could be a longer answer to that question.
It will be continuation of this kind of talk, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, if I can add to
Oh,
add
but
to that, yeah, please, Bruno,
no, I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say hello to Sergey, because Sergey said hello to us here, and he has a long question here. But go ahead, Johannes. Say that, and I'm gonna read his question here in a minute.
Yeah, for me, the trick is being curious about what other teams are doing within your company and having discussions, being curious about what others are doing outside your company and participating in communities, in meetups, in conferences, and always be on the look for what others are doing. And you will surely find your purpose and what you want to do. And also, many times, especially young developers, when we start, we tend to focus on the code. I found out that it's mostly about the problems that we solve using our code, about the challenges that we deal with, and not just the code. So if you combine curiosity together with a focus on the problems and what problems you're trying to solve, then this can be the sure path to find your purpose.
And it's not just
Absolutely.
individuals. Corporations too can do this. One of the things that always frustrated me in the corporate ecosystem was this idea that I always needed to innovate, but we could only talk about storage and servers. How can I innovate if my world is like this? This is my encouragement to anyone who's managing a team of developers. Hackathons are awesome because you get people out of your head. And we at WildMe have used the output of hackathons for the benefit of whale researchers. They can be purely educational, an exercise for your team, inspiration, or they can actually have real benefit. And I can attest to that. The other thing is I love the concept of sabbaticals, and I would love that to come to the corporate world. Do you want your staff to be innovative? Do you want them to have new ideas that they bring back? Maybe allow them to step outside of your domain. Do they want to go to a wildlife research conference, but they're a Java software developer? Absolutely, let them go find some purpose, some motivation, some ideas. And my journey, having this dual life of working at Dell and also starting the original code base for Wild Me and the Wild Book project, is that the cross pollination was constant. I would take things from Dell and I would bring it to the nonprofit world, and I would absolutely take developments from the nonprofit world and bring it back to Dell, and had that sort of outside viewpoint to actually innovate and bring things back to Dell and win some awards. And really, it's not just individuals who need to find purpose. Organizations that want to be more innovative need to really foster an environment where people can step outside of their day-to-day job and bring those innovative ideas and a little bit of joy back as well.
No, absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can
I
add
guess
that to the benefits that we're talking about at the beginning, right? So yeah, I know the more you can show companies the benefits, right, the more they're going to be interested. So that's good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take some ideas from, as Jason said. I mean, from one kind of world, bring to another. I mean, it's all kind of, again, it's all related. I mean, you can, and as we discussed also. I mean, you ideally you apply your own skills and your own experience to some of the problems that you have, right? It doesn't mean you should like learn completely different stuff. I mean, you should like look how to apply your skills, because each of us has our strengths and strong kind of things, right?
Right.
Okay, Bruno, do you want to read
So
the
Oleg,
question from the chat?
yeah. So Sergey, so thanks a lot, man, for the question. So Sergey asked, what do you think about online lifestyle impact on our planet? Before the internet, before the internet wasn't so cheap and available, application had to work offline, right? And just do syncing from time to time. Nowadays, everything is online and syncing constantly, generating redundant traffic. Don't you think that is just waste of resources?
Well, I want to just have a quick comment on that. Yes, on Sunday I was standing next to the new guy in charge of the metaverse in Europe, or at least the public policy side of metaverse, and I kept shuddering to think about like what Sergey was just saying is that okay, here we're just talking about data streams and the kind of
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things. But when we completely remove ourselves from that physical world and that social environment, then we have a huge problem. So it's not just the thinking processes and the kind of the data dumps that are complete wastes, but wasting our lives in this metaverse, I think, is a real reality check too.
Yeah,
Any
no, I
others
think that's
thoughts?
yeah, I think that technology, Sergey, is has can always be used for good things and bad things, right? I don't think that technology, at the same time that I don't think technology is completely neutral, right? But at the same time, everything can be used in a good way and a bad way, right? So if you think that's going to kind of tie back what we were talking before. So if you think all of those data going back and forth is wasteful, right? So maybe you can do something like Johannes was doing, right? So find ways to reduce that, right? And so maybe that's what's needed. If there was a way for us to reduce this back and forth, and you could come up with some good ideas. For example, every time you see a challenge, you see a problem, there is there's an opportunity for a solution there. But at the same time, right, instead of trying to focus on the reducing when I read your question, Sergey, the one thing I thought was when Tim Berners-Lee started the internet, he did say, oh, if we put images, right, and tags out there, people are gonna abuse that, right? And he was right. He said that many years later. He said, I was right. People do abuse that. But at the same time, it made us closer, right? A lot of people could think about, well, why we're doing this thing here, right? We're here sharing several video streams, and maybe there's some people who open with their browsers open and not even listening to it, right? And aren't we just wasting resources here? but that allows us to have this conversation that would be impossible just a few years ago, right? And so now it's so amazing that we can use those things to actually make things better, right? And so, yeah, I do understand that there is redundancy and there is wasted resources, and there are people that misuse things and all that. But when we allow for the best things, right? When you allow wide me to exist, for example, right? That's a lot more interesting than the wasted resources.
Yeah, and I think just to very, very quickly just riff on what you're saying, Bruno, is that Tim Berners-Lee is now working on the solid framework. So rather than having all of these data silos about ourselves and in Google and Facebook and Twitter accounts, that we're in control of our own data sets, and they have to ask us, and that's a completely different way of removing the excess, removing the waste, and also put you in control of your own digital rights, which again goes very closely back to the whole social sustainability aspects going into the future.
Yeah, I guess Tom also mentioned, some time ago when we had an interview, and also Tom had an interview with some of our media kind of sites, right? And I mean, I guess we discussed the importance of the open data, how to make the data kind of open to people to get benefit from that, right? And I mean, this is a good idea. I mean, if you have some kind of open data source that everyone can use and benefit on, I mean, it's also, I guess, to some extent, it reduces waste, because instead of having their own copies or own data sources that someone keeping kind of private to each other, you have some kind of source of truth, right? That everyone is using or integrating with, or building APIs on top of that, or stuff like that, right?
One
Well,
of the
guys,
refreshing things in
I'm going to do a stop the press
okay.
moment here, because Stefan Jensen, right, the guy that created Devoxx and the guy that created this awesome rocket platform, he just comment on our talk here, and he says, I just joined the session, so thanks a lot, Stefan, for being here with us. And he says, having attendees fly to Ukraine, right, and speakers and all that would also have added a lot of carbon to it. So that's right? So a lot of times we think that the technology we're creating is redundant or it's wasteful, but actually maybe it's preventing some other thing that would be even more wasteful. And thanks a lot, Stefan, for being here with us.
Yeah, but I guess this thing, by the way, I mean, it has the two sides, right? I mean, because I mean, I quite often I hear these things that saying, oh, I mean, we probably to be kind of green, to be sustainable, we probably shouldn't travel or shouldn't do something, right? So it is kind of yes and no, right? I mean, you should be kind of smart about that. You should be like sustainable, so understand where you kind of need to go somewhere, or you can kind of refrain from that. But from the other side, instead of just completely like eliminating something, you can try to make it more efficient, right? You can try to apply some new kind of technology, some innovation to make the flights, for example, or kind of aircrafts more efficient, right? And kind of reduce the emissions and stuff like that. So it's like I would say two sides of things. I mean, it's not true that you should just abandon everything and kind of sit in the forest and sit without anything, right?
Right. So Doyana says, but that's not having the online conference would also reduce the availability of this conference for many of us, right? Because that's another thing. A lot of times, even if we have an in-person conference and people do travel, the online world allows us to reach people that would not be able to come, right? For many reasons, for money, for time, for distance, for maybe they have some mobility limitations that make it hard for them to participate. So all of these can so sometimes we can think that the technology might be wasteful, but actually by helping someone that's not able to participate, then actually technology is not being wasteful at all, right? Because there's nothing, think about it. The human brain is the most complex, the most sophisticated thing, right, in the whole world, right? So if you get someone like Doyana that cannot participate here in this discussion, and now they can participate because we're using online, because they can write software because GitHub is available. They can participate on this somehow. Then you're bringing a person into that process, and there's nothing more valuable than that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And this is also what I mentioned, I guess, during the opening, is that without this kind of online format, I wouldn't be able to bring all of you guys kind of in Ukraine, right? Because it's quite difficult. I mean, probably I would be able to bring some of you, but not all of kind of top speakers or kind of rock stars, right? Because it's there are some limitations. So yeah, I mean, agree. Okay. So is there any other questions, Bruno, in the chat?
No, that's good. So just Stefan said hello on so thanks a
Okay,
lot,
so
Stefan.
I have the last question. I guess we have like 5 minutes. Is it possible to earn kind of good money doing this kind of stuff, working on some ESG projects, or because this question, again, quite frequently asked by people, because there is a stereotype that if you are working on some kind of sustainability project, then you're doing only volunteering work, right? I guess, I mean, for those who listen to some of our talks and your talks, they probably know already that it's not quite true. But anyway, I decided to bring it to this panel discussion.
It's harder, to be completely honest. It's easier to find a corporate job with great pay doing something for somebody else than it is to find a good environmental job. My staff are paid, and I have to compete at market rates. So I tell my staff there's really two things I want to spend money on. It's one, it's your salary, and two, it's your healthcare, because we have to pay for that in the U.S. And everything else I'm going to be very, very cheap about, right? But it is challenging, and it's affected my roles significantly. I've moved from the guy who was laying down code for Wildbook at Dell to really financial engineering, getting us through the pandemic, working with funders to build a professional, paid, dedicated to wildlife research software team. It's really, really hard. So you have to find the organization where they actually value you enough to pay for you. I mean, please do volunteer. That does help. There are many conservation organizations that are poorly funded. I am extremely cognizant of the fact that some of the field biologists who are using our software are working a day job so that they can actually finish their PhD or actually do the conservation work. So, some areas they're never going to be able to pay you. But then again, there are some nonprofit organizations that reach a critical mass where they better pay you because too much of their work is dependent on technology. And I've actually seen the opposite. I've seen nonprofits that don't want to invest in technology, and they very much struggle. They struggle to modernize, they struggle to keep their software up, they struggle to keep their business processes going. And really, I think there's, just like we talk about the digital transformation in the corporate world, in the nonprofit world, we're going through the same. And more what you're going to find is that reputable, dedicated nonprofit organizations are hiring full-time software developers to be part of the core team, because they recognize there's no going cheap on that. That is a critical piece of the mission. And so, yes, you can. It's a little bit harder than the corporate world, but absolutely a good nonprofit organization is going to pay you. You also have to show that you're bringing value as well, but
Of
it's
course,
there.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think whether it's public or private or nonprofit or for profit, there's always going to be an issue of risk. I mean, I think all of us are old enough to remember the first the biggest economic collapse back in 2008, and then again during the pandemic, that people lose their jobs. So everything is risk. And so if you don't have a stomach for risk, then yeah, then maybe you don't want to do the kind of the higher ambitious kinds of things. But if you look at everything as an entrepreneur, even if you're in a big organization, and you can demonstrate value or to show the benefits, the win-win models and things like that, your job becomes more secure. You're happier because you're leading those projects, but you have to have a stomach for risk. And I think the points that Jason was making spot on is that people, if they believe in something, will definitely work the nights and the weekends to fulfill their dreams. But then once all of a sudden those dreams are fulfilled, and you're the expert and authority on those topics, then you can capitalize on your own projects.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, as more companies are joining the race to reduce carbon emissions, we have set some ambitious goals, as you may have heard recently in COP26. So as more companies join, sustainability and decarbonization is not only a field where non-profit organizations are interested in, but essentially every organization in the world will care about sustainability and have a commitment to reduce their carbon emissions. So each one of us, no matter where we work, we can contribute to achieving these goals.
No, absolutely. I I,
Yeah,
I,
no,
I totally agree. I mean, I guess you know more kind of in future it will be more and more demands on that. That's absolutely.
yeah. One thing that I like to think about is that I don't like this whole notion that about volunteer is just is unpaid, right? For me, volunteer is that you do something because you want to do, right? And so and you could be doing sustainability things inside your company today, right? You don't need to leave your company, and you can that would be like a volunteer work, right? So if you can get your boss, if you can convince your boss, you say, "Oh, why me needs this piece of software? Can I convince my boss to work on the open source project why me uses?" Right? So you'd be, and that could be a software that your company also uses, right? That would be really a real work for your company and for wide me, right? So I mean, if you find things that you can work on because you want to work on, that would be awesome. And we volunteer for things all the time, right? You volunteer for helping out on your kids' school or organizing the soccer game, right? I'm sure you volunteer to plan for a party on the weekends, right? You do things, and you can also do things that you find fun, right? So you can work on an open source project because you like that, or you want to work on open source software because you want to improve and you want to learn some new technology. And you can also come and work for WideMe and volunteer for them because you believe what you're doing, right? So all of these things are, we shouldn't be thinking about, oh, I need to do things. I'm only going to do things because someone is paying for me. Do things because you want them to do, and then bring that into your career, bring that into your life, so you can use that to improve your life also. And then and I think that that's a way for you to get closer and closer to your purpose, right? Because the whole thing that we need to do is, the more things we do that get us closer to what we want to do, the best the best we actually going to feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bruno. I guess this is a good conclusion of our the panel discussion. I guess it was you know awesome and hopefully useful for our participants who listen to that. So thanks a lot, guys, for your time, and thanks a lot for sharing your experience and inspiring people. So I guess together we're gonna build the better worlds for kind of our kids and for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.